Hi, today we are going to talk about the valuation of interest rate swaps. What are interest rate swaps? These are basically an agreement between two parties to exchange interest rate payments over the course of say agreed upon maturity and over regular intervals based on agreed upon notional as well. Maybe it's best to illustrate with an example. So assuming two parties agree to on an interest rate swap whereby one party pays fixed rate and the same party receives the floating rate. So let's assume that based on a notional of 1 million. Okay, this why this is called notional is because there's no actual payment on this amount. This is just simply a number where interest rate calculation is based upon. Okay, so there's also a necessary to indicate the fixed rate. So assuming fixed rate K is 4%. Okay, and assuming that we are a buyer of a payer IRS. Okay, so what this means is when you buy a payer IRS, we are going to pay a fixed rate. So this one implies that we are paying the fixed rate. Okay, when you buy a payer IRS, you are paying fixed, which means that we'll be receiving float from the other counterparty. So let's assume that we have 2 more years left to maturity, and that it's a semi-annual payment. Okay. Okay, so the one of the important things that when we look at the question or we're faced with the IRS scenario is to draw the payoff diagram over time. So let me draw it. Okay, so assuming that we are at time 0, and then we have period 1, which is 0.5 years from now. Okay, so we have period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4. Okay, so which will bring us back to 2 years into maturity. And okay, so let's go through the mechanics of the IRS. As a year 1, assume that we have agreed upon IRS, some years ago or some time ago, and we have just paid a coupon as a T0. Okay, so basically as a year 1, we know what is the fixed rate that we need to pay. Okay, so which is 4%. And as at the first period, we also know the float, because the floating rate of IRS is always based on the amount observed as at the beginning of the period. Okay, so assuming that this is 5%. So basically on this date, as at 0.5 years from now, we will be receiving okay, so it will be a profit of 1% of 1 million. Oh, sorry, it's not 1%, it's 1/2%, because we are talking about semi-annual here. Okay, so this will be what we will be expecting to receive as at the end of 0.5 years at period 1. Okay, so another thing that we will do at the period 1 is to make an observation on the LIBOR, 6 months LIBOR as at period 1. Okay, so that as at period 2, we know how to calculate the profit or loss as at period 2, and so on and so forth. And we do this at over the different periods over the life of the LIBOR. Okay, so let me next move on into valuation of this interest rate swaps as at T0. If you look at okay, there's basically 2 ways of doing it. Let me start from the first way, the usage of the FRA forward rate agreement, which we went through in the previous lecture. So if you look at this leg from t equals 0 to t equals 2 period, which is basically 1 year from now, we can notice that as at t equal 1, we need to observe the floating rate, and then the settlement is at t is equal to 2. So in a way, this is really very similar. In fact, it's the same as how a FRA, a 6 months by 12 months FRA work. Okay, if you just go and refresh your knowledge on FRA, so this is the value of this first, or rather the second payment in period 2 is basically the same as the FRA, 6 months by 12 months FRA. Okay, if you recall, this will be basically equal to the zero coupon bond as at the first period minus the 1 plus, okay, so this is 0.5 half a yearly times the fixed rate bond 4% multiplied by the zero coupon value as at year 1. Okay, so this is the value of FRA for this first period. Let's move on to this one and this one. Okay, so again, using the same argument that we have in previously, this will be exactly equal to a 12 months by 18 months FRA. Okay, so this will be equivalent to, using the zero coupon way of calculating FRA, it will be the same as 1 year minus 1 plus 0.5 multiplied by 4% P 1.5 years. Okay, and finally the last one. Okay, so using the same argument, this will be the same as the 18 by 24 FRA, 24 months FRA, and this will be equal to price of a zero coupon bond that matures in 1.5 years less this expression okay. So basically this IRS can be simplified into this all these various FRAs plus the present value of the first period's profit. So it's this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, so I can write all this, just sum all this up, and the value of FRA, value of IRS is simply the present value of the first period profit, okay, plus all this FRA. So if you look at all this, there's some terms that we cancel off. So this one is basically can be reduced to, okay, I call it P. Okay, I call it 0.5 here. So maybe I call it P1 here to denote that this is the first period. The zero coupon value of the first period minus the zero coupon value of the last period minus K times tau. Tau is basically this 0.5 value. Okay, it's the interval between each period times summation n minus 1 equal to 1 plus all the values of the zero coupon bonds in the intermediate period, which is all these things. Okay, all these things. Okay, so this is one way of obtaining the value of the IRS. Of course, when you talk about IRS, you have to be very careful to read the questions or the term sheets carefully. The last payment may not be here. The last payment may be somewhere here, and you have to read off the LIBOR as at the year period 4 and so on. And you may not be exactly as a T0, it may be somewhere around here, and there could be 3 months here. So there could be many different scenarios for IRS, and the important thing is to get the discounting concepts correct, and it should be fine. Okay, let me talk about the second way of valuing an IRS. Okay, I'll clean off the the second way of valuing IRS is, I think, which is something everybody is more familiar with, is to assume that assume that there is a par value exchange at the end of the maturity. So assume that there's 100 par value exchange at the end of maturity. So when this happens, it's as if that the two legs of IRS is as if that we are, in this case, we are paying fixed. It's as if that we are paying we are selling a bond, and then we are receiving a floating rate bond. Okay, so it's as if that when we do it in this manner, we are valuing two bonds, one fixed and one float. Valuation of the fixed rate bond is simple. I think everybody should know this by now. It's simply in this case is 4%, so I'll denote it as C. Okay, C semi-annual, right? So C over 2. I think it's, just be careful. Plus 1 plus the discount rate to the power of I. Okay, plus of course the maturity value, I call it M. 1 plus R to the power of n number of periods. Okay, so this is a valuation of a fixed rate bond. The formula is straightforward. And the valuation of a floating rate bond is even easier. Okay, so as at this point in time, the value of a floating rate bond is par, it's $100. Okay, and at this point in time, there's a P&L here. Okay, plus the P&L here. Okay, and discount this value using the first period discount rate. Okay, and so this will be the floating rate bonds valuation, and the valuation of IRS is simply to take this minus this, and this will be a value of the IRS. Okay, the $100 assumption here will knock off when we do this summation, because they are received and paid at the same time at the end of the whole IRS. I think this should be an easier way of valuing, and for those who don't know why I've assumed 100 here, let me show you through using Excel. Okay, so in this example, it's a 3-year bond, and this is a floating rate. This is a floating rate bond, 3 years. Every year we pay, we receive LIBOR. Okay, and receiving LIBOR means that when the LIBOR is 5%, we receive $5 based on the $100 notional. When LIBOR is 6%, we receive $6 notional. And end of the 3 years, we receive the coupon plus the notional, plus the principal back. Okay, so discount everything back to present value. Okay, this amount using 5%. Okay, you'll get 4.76 in the present value. Discount $6 back to present value. Okay, 6 divided by 1.06 to the first year, and divide by 1.05 to the present. Okay, and so on and so forth. And you can see that if you sum everything up, you get $100, which is the par. Okay, so back to this example, at this point in time, we are going to receive a floating every year, and then $100 notional at the end of the whole thing. And if we discount everything back to here, we are getting par. Okay, which explains why this $100 is here. And then we also have this P&L here, and we discount everything back to times 0. Okay, which is this formula here. And then simply add these two, and then you get the valuation of the interest rate swap. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.